Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, I want to ask you something. Has anyone ever betrayed your trust before? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to read your thoughts. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. I don't even know where to start. Maybe the beginning is the safest place, even though just thinking back makes my chest tighten. My partner and I have been together for over a year and a half now, but the truth is, our story goes way further back than that. We've known each other since elementary school. For years, we were the kind of kids who would drift in and out of each other's lives, dating on and off, sometimes close, sometimes distant. But after graduation, something shifted. Things became serious, real, or at least I thought they did. We graduated in 2022, full of plans, full of dreams. I wanted to believe that we were finally stepping into adulthood together, leaving behind all the childish games. But deep down, something was gnawing at me. Something felt off. See, trust has always been a fragile thing between us. I wanted a relationship built on honesty, on openness, on the comfort of knowing that when I looked at him, I could believe every word he said. But from the very start, there were cracks in that picture. Little things. White lies. Excuses that didn't add up. The kind of details most people might overlook. But I couldn't. I told myself not to overthink it. I told myself, "You've been with him for so long. You know him better than anyone. Stop being paranoid." But my gut screamed something different. And I've learned one painful truth in my life. Your intuition is rarely wrong. We went through a small breakup not long after graduating. It was only 3 months, but during that time, my trust was tested more than ever. When we got back together, I remember the very first question I asked him. "Did you do anything behind my back while we weren't together?" He swore to me that he didn't. He told me everything was innocent, that I was all he wanted, all he thought about. And God help me, I believed him, because that's what love does. It blinds you, it convinces you that what you feel is stronger than the doubt that claws at your chest. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. About half a year later, I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified but also hopeful. Maybe this was the new beginning we needed. Maybe parenthood would make him step up, would make him cherish me the way I longed to be cherished. And for a while, it seemed like things might actually turn out that way. We moved forward, hand in hand, pretending everything was fine. But I didn't know. I didn't know that during those months when I needed his love the most, when I was carrying our child, he was already lying to me again. He confessed months later that he'd been hiding things from me. Secrets that stretched back for long months. For months of deception while I carried his baby inside me. Trusting him, defending him, telling myself that the strange shifts in his behavior were just stress. He let me question my own sanity. Every time I confronted him, he twisted the story, looked me in the eye, and swore I was imagining things, that I was too insecure, that it was all in my head. That kind of manipulation, it changes you. It eats away at the version of yourself that believes in love. It turns your heart cold and your mind sharp, always scanning for lies. And then, just when I thought I had survived the worst of it, something else happened. Something small, almost insignificant on the surface. But it shook me in a way I couldn't ignore. Because sometimes, it's not the big betrayals that break you. It's the subtle signs. The ones that whisper, "You're not crazy. He's hiding something again." And I wish I could tell you I was wrong. But the truth? That was only the beginning of the storm. After that first confession, something inside me cracked. I tried to patch it up, tried to convince myself that maybe people make mistakes and that love is about forgiveness. But the truth is, once someone shows you they're capable of lying straight to your face, while holding your hand, while kissing your forehead, you can never look at them the same way again. The rest of my pregnancy became a blur of mixed emotions. On one hand, I had this tiny life growing inside me, something pure and innocent, something worth protecting at all costs. On the other hand, I had him, the man who was supposed to be my protector, my partner, my safe place, but who had already proven he could betray me when I was most vulnerable. I noticed little changes in him that only deepened my unease. His phone became like an extension of his body. He guarded it with a kind of intensity that didn't make sense, even for someone who valued privacy. And whenever I'd ask casual questions about his day, there were these tiny pauses, fractions of a second too long, before he answered. Like he was rehearsing the truth before feeding it to me. I brushed it off, again and again. I told myself, "You're pregnant. Your hormones are all over the place. You're imagining problems that aren't there." But deep down, I knew it wasn't my hormones. It was my instincts. And then, one night, about 3 months into my pregnancy, he broke down and admitted something. He told me that for months he had been hiding things from me. Things that had weighed on him. Things he couldn't keep secret anymore. I remember just sitting there, numb. The weight of betrayal doesn't always hit you like a bomb. Sometimes, it feels like slow poison seeping through your veins, paralyzing you inch by inch. He looked at me with those eyes. The same eyes that had promised me forever since we were kids. And suddenly, I didn't know who I was looking at anymore. What hurt the most wasn't even the confession itself. It was the realization that I had known all along. That my body, my mind, my intuition had been screaming at me, and yet I silenced it because I wanted to believe him. I wanted so badly for him to be the man I thought he was. After that night, things between us were never truly the same. Yes, we kept moving forward. Yes, we still prepared for the baby, still played house, still told ourselves we were going to be a family. But the trust, it was shattered. And no matter how much you try to glue broken glass back together, the cracks are always there. Fast forward a few months, and suddenly everything changed again. Our daughter was born. She was perfect. So small, so fragile, so undeserving of the chaos she had been born into. I held her in my arms and swore that I would do anything to protect her, even if that meant protecting her from the man standing right next to me. At first, I hoped her arrival would change him. That maybe fatherhood would spark something inside of him, responsibility, devotion, maturity. But it didn't. If anything, he became more distant. We barely shared any intimacy after she was born. Maybe 3 times, if I'm honest. And every time, it felt different, like something vital had gone missing between us. Then he got a new job, one that kept him away for days, sometimes weeks at a time. At first, I told myself it was good. He was providing for us. He was trying. But as the days stretched into weeks, and the silence between us grew heavier, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling that history was repeating itself. My mind became a battlefield. One side screaming that I was overthinking, that I was projecting old wounds onto new circumstances. The other side reminding me that I'd been here before, that he had proven himself capable of lying, manipulating, and making me question my own reality. And then it started again. The small, subtle signs. A certain way he'd act during intimate movie scenes on TV, his phone history conveniently cleared, strange ads popping up on his browser. None of it was concrete evidence, but it all felt too familiar. Too much like déjà vu. Every time I confronted him, he was calm. Almost too calm. He would reassure me with soft words, empathy dripping from his voice. He told me I was safe with him, that he wasn't hiding anything, that I could trust him. But if that were true, why did it feel like my heart was pounding with dread every time he looked me in the eyes? And that's when I realized, maybe the real betrayal isn't just in what he's done. Maybe it's in what he's made me become. Someone who can't even tell the difference between paranoia and intuition anymore. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, that was only the beginning of a much darker discovery. The nights became the hardest. When he was away for work and the house was quiet except for the sound of our daughter breathing softly in her crib, my mind would spiral into places I didn't want it to go. Every unanswered text, every delayed phone call, every vague explanation about where he had been. They all stacked up in my head like bricks building a wall between us. I told myself I was just tired, overwhelmed by the stress of motherhood. But there was no denying the pit in my stomach that only grew heavier with time. It wasn't just suspicion. It was instinct, raw, unshakable instinct. Still, I tried to push it down. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to believe in the image of the family we had created, even if the foundation beneath it was crumbling. But every time I looked at him, I couldn't ignore how different he seemed. His phone always locked, always face down on the table. He'd flinch slightly whenever I reached for it, even just to move it aside. When I asked why he was so guarded, he'd smile faintly and tell me I was imagining things. That smile, God, I hated that smile. It wasn't comforting. It was patronizing, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum, not a partner with legitimate fears. And yet, every time I pressed him, he would soften. He'd take my hand, look at me with that practiced tenderness, and assure me that he understood, that he knew I'd been hurt before, that he wasn't doing anything wrong. But words lose their power when they come from someone who's lied to you before. They become hollow, empty. A script recited to keep you quiet, and that's exactly how it felt. I tried to tell myself to stop digging, that if I kept looking for something, I would eventually find it, whether it was there or not. But the thought haunted me. What if I stop looking, and he's lying again? What if the truth is right in front of me, and I choose to ignore it? One evening, when he was away on another long shift, I found myself staring at his phone sitting on the counter. It wasn't locked this time. My heart raced, my palms sweated, and I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. One step and there would be no going back. I didn't want to be that person, the one who snoops, the one who breaks trust to find proof of betrayal. But wasn't the trust already broken? Hadn't he already shattered it himself? I hesitated for what felt like hours. And then, against my better judgment, I picked it up. Most of it seemed normal. Messages from work, casual conversations with friends, reminders, and to-do lists. But it was the small things that caught my eye. His search history had been wiped clean. Again. Only this time he had missed something. A trail faint but there. Ads and links that didn't make sense. Sites I'd never seen before. Nothing outright damning, but enough to make my stomach twist into knots. I put the phone down, my hands trembling. I didn't have the smoking gun, but I had something almost worse. Confirmation of my own fears. He was hiding something. Maybe not the worst thing imaginable, but something nonetheless. When he got back from work the next morning, I tried to play it cool. I acted normal, smiled, asked about his day. But inside I was boiling. Every word out of his mouth felt like another layer of deceit. Finally, I snapped. I asked him outright, "Are you hiding something from me again?" He looked me dead in the eyes, calm as ever, and shook his head. "No, you're just stressed. You're overwhelmed. You've been through so much, and I understand why you feel this way, but I promise, I'm not lying." His voice was steady, almost too steady. It sounded rehearsed, like a script he'd been preparing for exactly this moment. And for a second, I almost believed him. But then I remembered how many times I'd heard those same words before. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him until the truth came spilling out. But instead, I stood there in silence, staring at the man I once thought I knew. And then it hit me, maybe the problem wasn't just him. Maybe the problem was me, because I had allowed myself to keep forgiving, to keep overlooking, to keep accepting half-truths as if they were enough. But the question that haunted me most wasn't, "Is he lying?" anymore. It was something far more terrifying. If he is lying, what else is he capable of hiding from me? The days blurred together after that confrontation. I kept replaying his words in my head, twisting them around, trying to find cracks in his calm delivery. He had looked me right in the eyes and sworn he wasn't hiding anything. But how many times had he done that before, only for me to later discover the opposite? Every little thing became suspicious. The way he carried his phone with him even when he went to the bathroom. The sudden brightness in his tone when certain messages popped up. The tired excuses about long shifts and unexpected overtime. I didn't want to live like this, constantly analyzing, constantly questioning. But once trust is broken, you don't get to go back to ignorance. You notice everything, even things you wish you hadn't. One night, I woke up to the sound of him whispering. At first, I thought he was dreaming, but when I turned my head, I saw the faint glow of his phone lighting up his face. It was nearly 2 a.m. He was smiling softly, his thumbs moving quickly across the screen. My heart dropped. Who was he talking to at that hour? I didn't say anything. I just closed my eyes and pretended to sleep, though my entire body was shaking with rage and fear. In the morning, I checked. Nothing. No late-night texts, no messages, no proof. He had erased everything. That's when I realized just how careful he was being. He wasn't sloppy anymore, not like before. If he was hiding something, he was doing it well. And that terrified me even more. Because if someone can lie so effortlessly, cover their tracks so thoroughly, how do you ever uncover the truth? I started questioning myself constantly. Was I losing my mind? Was this just paranoia? Postpartum anxiety? The exhaustion of raising a baby almost entirely on my own? Or was my intuition once again screaming the truth that I didn't want to face? The tension between us grew unbearable. Every conversation felt like walking on eggshells. I wanted to ask him straight out, to beg him to just be honest with me for once. But every time I opened my mouth, the words caught in my throat. Instead, I started observing, watching, waiting, hoping that if I stayed quiet long enough, the truth would reveal itself. And then, it did. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a shocking text or a stranger calling my phone. It was something small, something so subtle that most people wouldn't even notice. He came home from work one evening, tired and distracted. He dropped his bag by the door, his phone slipping out of his pocket onto the couch. For once, he didn't rush to grab it. A notification lit up the screen. Not a name I recognized, just a number that sent my pulse racing. I froze. He noticed my eyes flick toward the phone and instantly grabbed it, locking it before I could see anything else. He laughed it off, muttering something about spam messages. But I knew better. Spam doesn't make you panic. Spam doesn't make you grab your phone like it's a lifeline. Spam doesn't make you avoid my eyes afterward. That single moment confirmed what I had feared all along. There was something or someone he didn't want me to know about. And as much as it broke me, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The only question left was I strong enough to find out the whole truth, no matter how devastating it might be? After that night, there was no going back. I couldn't unsee the way he snatched his phone, couldn't forget the flicker of fear in his eyes. Something was there, something he didn't want me to know. I tried to act normal, to go about my days as if everything was fine. But inside, I was breaking. Every time he left for work, every time he avoided my gaze, every time he swore he loved me, I felt my heart splintering a little more. I became consumed with one thought. I need to know the truth. One evening, after putting our daughter to sleep, I made a decision. No more second-guessing. No more giving him the benefit of the doubt. He had already proven he could twist reality, gaslight me into doubting myself. If I didn't take matters into my own hands, I would lose myself completely. When he left for his shift, I grabbed his spare work bag, the one he sometimes left in the closet. I didn't expect to find anything, but I searched anyway. At the bottom, tucked between old receipts and loose change, I found something that stopped my breath. A small notebook. The pages were filled with scribbles, reminders, and random notes, but mixed in between were numbers. Phone numbers, names I didn't recognize, and short sentences. Call back later. Don't forget Thursday. Keep quiet. It wasn't proof of cheating in the traditional sense, but it was enough. Enough to know he was hiding parts of his life from me. Enough to confirm that my paranoia wasn't just paranoia. I confronted him that night when he got home. My hands were shaking as I held the notebook out to him. First, he laughed, said it was nothing, just contacts from work. But when I pressed harder, his calm mask began to crack. His words stumbled. His eyes darted away. His voice rose defensively. That was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't need him to spell it out for me. I didn't need every detail of what he had been doing or who those numbers belonged to. The truth was already clear. I could never trust him again. The man I had loved since childhood, the father of my child, had built our life together on lies. He had forced me to question myself, to carry guilt for being suspicious, to believe that my instincts were wrong, when all along they had been right. That realization hit me harder than any confession ever could. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized something terrifying. I didn't even recognize him anymore. He wasn't my partner. He wasn't my safe place. He wasn't the boy I thought I knew. He was a stranger I had let into my home, my bed, my heart. And in that moment, clarity washed over me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was simply a woman who trusted someone who didn't deserve it. The next morning, I made a quiet promise to myself. I would protect my daughter. I would protect my peace. And whether or not he ever confessed the full truth, I knew I couldn't live in the shadows of his lies any longer. Sometimes the most painful betrayal isn't discovering what someone did. It's realizing how long you allowed yourself to believe their words instead of your own instincts. And as I watched him walk out the door for work that day, I finally understood. The truth had been inside me all along. I just hadn't wanted to face it. But now I was ready. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps a lot. Take care, and I wish you a wonderful day.